Welcome to my little review of CoolingTech software for your digital microscope. These microscopes have been out and available for several years now. With the bracket provided, they're a little bit of a joke trying to use one, but with the proper mounting brackets and the proper techniques for adjustment, these can be a very useful tool, and I look forward to using it very actively in my work. I bought mine specifically for working with electronics, specifically PC boards, especially surface mount technology, for checking solders and making sure I didn't have any problems when I repaired a board. The one I have is the USB only version, and I'm quite impressed with it, now that I've got a couple good mounts for it. And the mounts are not the subject of this video. I'll get into those in another video, but suffice to say, I think this thing could be equal to what was just a few years ago, several $1,000s in equipment. And it's only 25 bucks off eBay. But let's get into the software. There are at least 5 different installable programs for your digital microscope. One of those comes with Windows 10. The other 4 are available on a free download basis, and I'll list the download locations in the description, and you can download them there. This video only covers CoolingTech software. All other software for your digital camera will be covered in their respective videos. This video covers CoolingTech version 4.5. If any of you know of a newer version that has come out, please do post it in the comments. We'd all like to know about it. There are wireless digital microscopes, and they are USB only digital microscopes. I only have the USB version, so I won't be addressing it from the wireless standpoint in this video. Now, from my experimenting around, the software will load and run from XP onward, but the driver is only workable from Windows 7 onward. Okay, so what do I lose if I don't have the driver? Short answer, in this version, as far as I've been able to tell, not much. From what I've been able to tell, the only thing you lose is the ability to zoom and pan at a live window. If that's of little interest to you, you might be able to forget the driver. Okay, so if you still want the driver, what you need to do is go to the link in my description and download Camera.Zip. Once you have the file, go ahead and unzip it to a permanent location on your hard drive. Open that newly installed folder and go to the driver folder. Make sure you see the driver I have circled above. This is the driver we're going to be installing. For Windows 7 users, now go back to your main menu and go to Control Panel. Now go to Device Manager. Look down and see if you see an Imaging Devices listing. Click on that one. You should see this. If you do see this, you're done. You need to proceed no further. If you don't see this, you still need to install the driver. Now, for you Windows 10 users, go to Settings, go to the search box, type in Control Panel, and then click on the Control Panel result. Then go to Hardware and Sound, click on Devices and Printers. You should now see your USB camera showing up, and you want to double click on that, and that'll take you to the next one. Now you want to click on Hardware. You should see your device in this list. It should have a GL in front of it if the driver's installed correctly. If it doesn't, you want to double click on this. All users should merge from this point, and now we're going to install the driver, at least make sure it's the correct driver. Click on Driver in the top row. Now, if you're not seeing that GL prefix, you want to now click on Update Driver. Browse My Computer for driver software. Here you should see the correct folder where the driver is located. If not, you want to go ahead and browse to move to that correct folder. Once you get to the correct folder, click Next. The computer should now go off and update the driver, and when it comes back, you should be looking at the correct driver with that GL prefix in front of it. Now you should have the driver installed, but just to be sure, click on Driver Details and make sure this is what you're looking at. Okay, and here comes the fair warning part of the program. Windows will tend to drop this driver, especially if you have a laptop you're using with a webcam built in, or you're using another camera like a Logitech. Be sure you have the folder handy so you can reinstall this driver. I suggest leaving it on your computer at a place you can find very easily. Now, if you don't already have a CD of the software, you need to go download the software. This is the link for the software. And yes, the link is in the description. Once you have it downloaded, you want to put it in a directory that's going to be a permanent location on your hard drive. Don't forget where the directory is. Now, before we begin, let me advise you that this software has more bugs in it than a Carolina swamp 14 days after a Cat 5 hurricane passed through. So there are an awful lot of really strange things going on here. But as you'll see from these images, it's well worth it to try to fight through all the bugs. You can get some very, very good information out of this. The software defaults to 640 by 480, which is what this image is. Your maximum resolution with a 2 megapixel camera is 1600 by 1200, and that's what this image is. I'm going to proceed from here just like you're installing this software from a CD, which most of you probably are. You folks that download this software from the website shouldn't have too much trouble following along because it's very little difference between the two. When you boot up using the CD, it's probably going to give you a choice whether you want to do auto run or open the CD and look at the files. I recommend opening the CD and viewing the files, then executing the installation from the File Explorer level. Double-click on the CoolingTech MSI file to install the software. I'll leave it up to you to decide what you want to do when you hit this screen. Okay, once you get to here, it's just clicking Next to proceed again. And congratulations, when you get to this screen, your basic software is installed. Kinda. Go to your menu now and find CoolingTech Microscope and then execute the file CoolingTech Microscope. And we'll get busy on our list of bugs. Well, if you've been following along so far, you probably hit this first bug. Now, if you click Continue from here, the software will present you with a nice pretty little gray screen. And if you click Quit, the software will shut down and return you to wherever you launched the software from. Now, what the software actually wants is two missing directories that it did not install where it should have installed them. What you need to do is go to the directory where the CoolingTech software is installed and install these two empty directories, Cap Picture and Cap Video. After doing that, now relaunch the software and you should get to this screen. And yes, it looks like we're making progress. What you want to do now is slide the lower window over to the left to expose the Libraries window. Okay, here's your infographic about what all the icons mean. I recommend you to print this off or study it intently until you've got it memorized. You're going to want to go back to these icons virtually from now on. Now you're going to need a calibration standard that you'll be able to use to calibrate this particular view of the microscope. You'll have to recalibrate the microscope every single time you change the magnification. This is one of the limitations of the hardware. Since the magnification is continuously adjustable, there's no way to exactly return where your magnification was previously. Now, when you bought your microscope, hopefully that little clear plastic ruler they supply with it, in many cases, was installed with your particular microscope. If not, you're going to need to find some kind of a calibration standard to proceed from here. Now that you've got your calibration standard in focus, you need to decide what you want to calibrate to. In my particular case, this is a little plastic ruler. Each minor division is 0.5 millimeter. The major divisions are 1 millimeter. Now it's time to calibrate your screen for this particular magnification. You want to press the pause icon, the point-to-point distance icon, and the demarcate icon, which is the one in the upper right corner of the icons. You want to do it in that particular order. Now you want to use the point-to-point distance icon to pull a dimension on your particular calibration standard on the screen. The software defaults to millimeters, and there's no reason whatsoever you couldn't change that if you wanted to. Just remember, the accuracy of the software here is going to be the accuracy of your pulled measurement and whatever your calibration standard is. You can ignore the Chinese characters here. They're not particularly relevant to what we're doing. They're just identifications they forgot to change over into English. Now, in my particular example, what is actually 1 millimeter is shown as 2.269 millimeters and 152 pixels. Now click on the Calibrate tab, click on the top row, which is the one we want to edit, and we're going to hit our next bug. Now what's actually going on is the software never created this calibrate.conf file in the main directory. So we have to do that manually. and then we've got to give it the proper permissions so that we can access it with the software. Now you want to go back to your main menu and right-click on Notepad, then in the pop-up box, click Run as Administrator. You may have to give your administrative password here. In Notepad, you want to navigate to the directory where your CoolingTech software is installed and create that file, calibrate.conf. Make sure you have all files selected before you save it. You want to make sure it saves a .conf file and not a .text file. Save your newly created file and then go to that directory and click on Properties for that file by doing a right-click Properties. Now click on the Security tab, navigate down to Users, then down under the permissions you want to give all users full control for this file. Click Apply and then OK, and then you can relaunch the software. Now when you go back into your Libraries window and click the Calibrate tab followed by the top row and then Edit, this screen pops up. Now what we need to do to calibrate the software for the screen you're using is change that 67 to the 152 we determined earlier. Now when you go back and pull a next dimension on top of the previous dimension, you notice the previous dimension is updated to reflect what you told it was in the original measurement. Now let's get the perimeter ruler up. Go back and click on the staff gauge icon and you should have the ruler appear around your screen. Now if you go back and toggle your primary color icon down on the lower left and toggle the staff icon, your ruler should calibrate itself. Now if you want to clear the screen and start over again, you can toggle the delete all in the results screen and it'll absolutely wipe the screen. It won't affect the ruler and it will not affect your calibration settings. Now if you want to save your work on the screen, you click the Save Picture As icon and it will save it to a drawcamera.jpg file. Now changing screen resolution. If you click the Adjust Resolution icon, which is the one in the upper left, it will allow you to set a lower or higher resolution for your screen. Remember, it always defaults on boot up to 640 by 480, so you've got to change this if you want a higher resolution each time you boot the software. If you click Continue, then you get this error, which in essence is pretty harmless because you did already change the resolution. Now here's what you got to do to make this new screen resolution take effect. First, press the stop icon. You'll notice your window disappeared. Now press the play icon. Once you do that, your new higher resolution screen should appear. You'll note your bars have also appeared so you can move around a little bit more on the screen. You're not confined. Fair warning, at this resolution the software is extremely unstable. It will tend to crash. If you click the photograph icon, which is the one next to the one we just previously talked about, you're going to get this error. And in essence, this icon doesn't do anything except give you an error. Now, it's really somewhat redundant because the Save Picture As always saves the same thing as what I believe a photograph would save, but we don't know since this button doesn't work. For your drawing on the screen, you basically have a selection of 3 lined weights, kind of a low, a medium, and an extra heavy. You also have 3 line types, a constant line, a dash line, and a dot dash line. Okay, let's look at these 5 icons. The first is an open image icon. The last is a save picture as. So you can open any saved picture with the open image icon without any trouble. Now let's talk about the middle 3. The intent here was that you could save your results table to a Word document, an Excel document, or email it to someone. On the surface, that kind of sounds like a good idea, but let's take a look at it in practice. What I've got here is 2 lines and an ellipse. Here's the actual export to Word. Obviously, the question marks are where the Chinese characters appear. I don't know about you, but there's not too much I can get out of this one. Maybe once they get it back into English and out of Chinese, I might be able to do something with it, and it might be a useful tool. Now, the other thing missing is there's no way to import one of these exported files. So you can send it out, send it to somebody, but you can't do anything with it, or they can't do anything with it when they receive it. And obviously, anything depends upon the particular magnification of the 2 microscopes in question. I'm going to run a little demo here. Unfortunately, CoolingTech and my screen capture software won't permit CoolingTech to be run at full resolution. Okay, let's start out with a line function. As you can see, both the line and the dimension are the same color. I'll go in there and change that. Now the line changed, but the actual dimension number remained the same. There's line dimension in white. And there's everything else in white. Now I'm going to clear the results table. And I'll start out with a clean screen again. And let's do a calibration function. We're already in the static screen. Then I'm going to click the dimension icon there, this one, and you can see my screen just had the rulers and the calibrations pop up. Let's see if it's still in calibration. Okay, showing 0.8 millimeters, so no, it's not. And we'll click the distance measurement tool and that box up there, and pull one dimension, and I'm going to change it to white so I can see it. Okay, 0.759 is actually 1 millimeter, and that is 91 pixels. So I'm going to go to the calibrate. Now I do an edit, and I'll change this number here to 91. And next time I pull a dimension, I get 1 millimeter. Okay, so what I'm doing to do all this is hold down the left mouse button, or I can click, and this allows me to kind of rubber band the line since I haven't clicked again. I'll click and then click, and that's the way you can draw a line. Okay, I'm going back, clearing the results table one more time. I'm going to put one line up here just for reference, and then go to the magnify tool. And as you can see, I can see what is on the screen, but not what I put on the screen. It does not magnify the line, it magnifies the image that's on the screen inside the box. Okay, circle time. Press and hold the left mouse key, draw a circle. Press and hold the left mouse key again. And as you can see, it starts out from one side of the circle. Okay, and draw a box. There's a box. Same routine. Where you start and where you finish. Press and release. Okay, clear results table again.
onto the polygon tool. Click, click, click. There's a triangle. What I did was 2 mouse clicks on the left button and 1 mouse click on the right button. Click, 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 right mouse button. There's where you draw a polygon. Okay, the multi-line tool is just as simple. Click, click, click. All I'm doing is clicking the left mouse button. And wherever I do, I get a line in. Terminate, I do a right click. Square, hold left mouse button down, release. This is a real light line, going with the medium line. Hold mouse button down, release. Changing to dash dot. Changing to heavy line type. Changing dash line. Arc measurement. 1 point left, 1 point left. Then decide where you want the center of the arc to be. And there's that dimension, and that dimension partial circumference, and the radius. Line dimension. Point. Point. And I'm going to change that back to a medium line and solid line, if it'll let me. Okay, there we go. And now I want to do a point to line dimension. Point, hold, release, pick the point, there's dimension to that line. Parallel lines. Point, release, and determine how far apart you want the lines to be. And there's dimension. Angle. Point, point, and determine the angle. This is the center point of the angle. And this is the dimension for this angle. And you can anoint these. And I haven't rebooted the software, so it's numbering from where I was. And lastly, of course, turn on and off the color palette.
Okay, so what I really like about this software, dimensioning. It needs a little bit of work, but all in all, it's a very, very useful tool. Certainly beyond anything else any of the other software offers. My rating for this software, 3 stars. The reason I'm downgrading it is it becomes very, very unstable at times. It can crash on you in a heartbeat. Now let's talk some software limitations. Number 1, no video recording. I don't consider this a major negative because it's not what the software is about. The dimensioning here is the key. Number 2, you can only change or anoint static windows. The only thing you can do with a live window is zoom and pan, and then only you have the correct driver installed on Windows 7 and later. Since the hardware is continuously adjustable, you have to constantly recalibrate every time you change a magnification setting. And there's no way to go back to an existing setting that you had before because, again, it's constantly adjustable for magnification. Now, personally, I consider this a minor issue because once you get used to the calibration routine, it's almost an afterthought. You can do it almost in your sleep. Next on my list of limitations is no text editor. But again, this is no big deal. Just use Paint. You just take a picture and go to Paint and do whatever you need to do. Number 5 on my list of limitations, only a blanket erase. If you make a mistake when you're making changes on the thing, like say you're setting a presentation for school or whatever, save and save often because you can't go back. The only thing you can do is start over again. Number 6, frequent software crashes. You haven't seen them because I've edited them all out, but there have been quite a few. My recommendation, save and save often. And last on my list, your drawing capabilities are very limited. You're definitely going to use paint, and probably the best thing to do is you go ahead and take a picture and then just go to paint for doing everything but dimensioning. You'll come out ahead of the ball game. My final verdict for what I need it for, I think it's a pretty good software. Again, it's got a few bugs in it still, but I can work around those. But for purposes of my working with electronics, I think it's fantastic for that. If you're a person that does a lot of presentations on a microscope level, I think you're going to find this a very useful tool. Well, yeah, I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, consider giving me a like and definitely consider subscribing. I just might have a few other things here coming down real soon you're going to see. I definitely got some more digital microscope videos on the way. So, until our paths cross again, y'all take care now, here, and we'll be in touch.